Snafu is a podcast that contains adult themes and language. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Snafu, where the situation's normal, all fucked up. This is the podcast where we tell you stories of true crime, true mystery, and truly fucked up shit that happens every single day, and then we just forget about it. So, we decided we would remind you. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Corey, and thanks for sticking with us, guys. This is our, sort of belated Valentine's Day episode, so happy not Halloween.
Yeah, happy Love Everybody Day.
I guess.
And I'm just going to step out there and say I done messed up. I got too deep in a rabbit hole. I got too deep into some research, and you guys know me if you've listened to any of our episodes. If you're here for the first time, you probably won't come back. Bye. But if you have stuck with us, I think you definitely know I'm a little A++ when it comes to getting all the facts about everything. I don't know that anything gets to stay out of the story. I feel like you have to know everything I know. And it's a problem. So I got a little too wrapped up in what we're going to delve into. But we got another two-parter for you at least. And we're going to be discussing cults.
You know, those things like fraternities and sororities that half of the people listening may have joined during college.
I mean, pretty much it is, it's my favorite topic. Everybody talks about cults, and us at Snafu, we typically like to take that route where we talk about the less known first. We don't mind going to a good classic, but we always want to start with something that's going to freak you out, and I first was going to start with the Moonies. Do you know the Moonies?
No, but I don't have the strangeness of knowledge that you have.
Yeah, that, and, also you weren't around in the 60s. Neither was I, but those are the guys, I think, in orange that you see hopping around at the airports.
The rebel pilots?
No, hush, okay. No. Why would they be hopping around?
Because they have one leg. They're like flamingos.
Until they took a laser to the knee.
Yeah. I was a rebel, too.
Okay, so anyways, getting back to the thing, I tried to actually research the Moonies. That turned out to be too much information. I was like, whoa, I can't possibly get all this down. Let's try something easier. So
and that doesn't ever happen because, we might go, not necessarily towards
we're
the classic.
3 weeks in, and I'm still freaking out.
But in case you guys haven't noticed, we're at a point where we also try to grab something going on in the news every few weeks. You know, something that's kind of a more common...
Let's face facts. It's something that you should know and we haven't even heard of.
Yeah.
And this is probably going to be one of those exact stories. And so I just want to get into it. So like we said, it's our first episode on cults. What do? We talk about cults and what they are in general. Because who doesn't know what a cult is? But let's just not leave anybody behind.
So let's get into it. We're going to start by, defining the cults, obviously. And a cult is just a term that refers to a group of people... that come together over an unusual belief, be it religious, spiritual, who can drink the most natty ice, and philosophical goals, all those types of groups. These groups range from a few members to millions, but, that kind of gets incredibly vague.
Yeah, that could basically be, like, any freaking group out there. Oh, it's a group of people that think this. That's a cult. I mean, that seems really silly to put it as, but when it comes down to it, it just seems like it's a group of people who've come together with a similar idea, a philosophy, or a religion, and they just don't seem to be state or nationally recognized yet. That really seems to be the biggest difference about what makes a religion or a government group or whatever this is and a cult.
Still, you got Scientology that's kind of recognized. That's still really fucking culty.
I mean, it is recognized by the United States. Like, they don't get taxed. They're a church. But yeah, a lot of people, if you would walk around in a mall and had a little questionnaire, people would say, yeah, Scientology is a cult.
Well,
or
go to Clearwater for 20 minutes. Walk around downtown Clearwater. See where that fucking castle of theirs is. And they're all walking around dressed exactly the same, and they can't make eye contact with you, or they probably get slapped. And they walk 2 by 2. It's
Where's
fucking
this?
creepy. In Clearwater. And
Okay.
over by Tampa. I'll take you there one
I
day.
want to go because I want to see the manatees there.
Okay, I go just because there's a coffee shop across the street from the Scientology schools.
There's one right in Miami.
Pressure the people into looking at you, and it's hilarious.
But like we said, that's nationally recognized. It's recognized by our country, so therefore it's no longer considered a cult. Obviously, that's not the only cult. Cults are not a recent thing. I mean, Scientology is not the first. Manson's not the first. This is not something that popped up in the 1960s. I mean, cults are just a human trait that we do. We get together, we believe in something, and people certainly want to make rules and live a certain way.
Yeah.
So we could say that cults have been around since prehistoric time, but most definitely, I mean, even I'm a Christian.
Yeah, you got that Jesus guy. Everyone follows him around.
Well, and I've been raised, I've gone to certain religious classes, and I've realized, Christianity was considered a cult when it first started.
We live in a day and age.
I think it's pretty regularly recognized.
But back then, you get 12 guys following one other guy into the desert somewhere. That's kind of culty.
It doesn't even sound fun. But then, did you hear about all the fish that he made?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some bread and some wine.
Lots of it. So, cool. Sorry. So anyways, even that would be considered a cult. We've got the Greeks. So, I mean, that was one of Corey's favorite topics about this, was that, the Oracle of Delphi. Obviously, not everybody would have believed in that, but it was such a strong following that it was bigger than just, that one weird guy down the street. It's definitely a cult.
Then you've also got, the different temples, people worshiping, Apollo or Dionysus, and then even within Apollo, there's there's a winter Apollo and a summer Apollo, and they get really weird with the Greeks.
So if you want to nerd out with Corey over Greek mythology, give us an email. He will definitely talk to you.
Let's be honest, it's not nerding out. Luke Skywalker, maybe then I'll nerd out, but
even pushing it to more of a recent history, leading to the 1800s. The 1800s, Victorian era, you have a ton of people who have decided to live by more of not a religious norm, but a social norm. You have a lot of vegans coming out, but they're not just being regular vegans. They're living in a community of vegans.
Yeah.
You have the Kellogg family. I mean, they were very about clean living.
And cereal. Lots of cereal.
That is also true.
Yeah.
But
clean living and cereal.
A lot of
things I know about that family.
A lot of those groups in the 1800s were living in communes that lasted up to about 10 years, and it would always center around a certain way of living or a certain belief, usually hitting more towards there was actually a big group of socialists moving out into these communes. That was a new idea, and it was a new way of living, it all equal, blah, blah, blah. And so, there were a lot of communes even starting in the 1800s with all those prim and proper Victorian people. You'd never imagine doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about, our favorite people over on the island that you told me about living their naked vegan life.
Oh, yeah, that's right, in the last episode.
But they didn't seem very happy about being around other people.
No,
so I wouldn't consider it a cult.
From people, so.
But he had the charismatic nature, I think he could have been a very good cult leader.
Probably.
So that being said, that's what we're going to define a cult as. A cult is a group of people who stand outside of the societal norm and decide to live their lives by a set of rules set by that group that they've chosen to be with. Right? Does that sound good enough?
In all cases, followers or members of a cult are people that tend to have their life being manipulated in some sort of way to live by commandments of these groups. And that's all kind of brought down by, some leadership group. And then they're gonna, it's not just socialism or veganism, but sometimes they're weird sex cults, because that's a thing all the goddamn time with our fucking species.
I mean, it's something most people like.
Yeah, and or hate. We're Americans. We don't talk about that shit.
We're very puritanical.
Mother wouldn't like that.
We can't talk about these things. It's very awkward. We're just going to be extremely sexually fiended in the closet.
But and those cults, they end up trying to dictate the lives of people by giving them a few small pleasures that are more than they're going to get anywhere else, and then it's kind of like a slow, almost Stockholm syndrome type of thing.
Yeah, but obviously a lot of regular people fall into a cult, and they would never believe that they were going to fall for this. It's a psychological effect.
Yeah, that's why I said Stockholm syndrome.
And it doesn't have to be a cult for somebody to tell you what to wear. So that's what a lot of cults do. They border that line between what is a cult and what is just a little more of an extreme defining. You go to work, you have a certain attire you have to wear, right? You go to church, you should wear nice attire.
Yeah. Probably not dressed in Slayer outfits, but
the thing is with cults, they tell you things like what to wear, what you can eat and what you can't eat, who you can associate with and who you can't. And then if it gets more extreme than that, then you can pretty much guarantee you're probably pretty close to a cult.
sometimes the leadership of the cult always kind of, they keep things secret. Why are we doing this? And they don't disclose all the knowledge that they have. And they're always trying to hold you to work towards something more. That's exactly what the fucking Greek houses did in college, too. And that's
Tell me more.
I mean...
Why? Will they track you down and, like, murder you if you tell their secrets?
No, I fucking left. I left before I learned anything. But, a lot of them have, like, a whole, like, part of the hazing ritual, and then just having these, like, steps and tiers. It depends. I'm not gonna name any house, because every house is gonna have their own weird shit. There's the one that...
It's a secret society. Of course it will.
Yeah, there's that one that, there's something that involves a wooden dowel and a can of Crisco.
Excuse me, what now?
Look it up. It's on the internet.
Y'all, I heard about these things like Twitch streams. You guys would make so much money.
No, it wouldn't be allowed on Twitch stream.
Oh, no?
No.
There's other ones. I've heard about other ones.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of live cam weird bullshit, but...
Okay, we are getting off track yet again.
Yeah.
I think the point we're leading to is that not only are there a set of rules that are dictated to you because of your, because of your beliefs, but also because there typically is a figurehead or a group of people, like a council, or even like a godhead, someone who's martyred themselves, maybe someone who is untouchable, maybe a living god, like, I don't know, Korea.
I think martyrs and living gods are two different things, but...
No, I mean, I'm just bouncing around with these people who are literally untouchable by almost anybody who would follow them. You can't walk up to Kim and be like, "Hey, sup, dude?" Like,
and you can't
and neither can any of his followers.
You can't even take a picture from behind his statue. So
yeah. So the point is like
here.
He's not approachable. So that is somebody way different than if you have a group of 40 people following, a pastor who has been spoken to by God.
Yeah.
You definitely can walk up to that dude and be like, "Hey, what did God say?" I mean, I guess the most important thing about most of these leaders. Is that they're charismatic or they're unique. They're very intelligent. They're somebody that people want to gather around and spend time listening to.
Yeah.
And that is really important because it seems to always come down to those leaders. Those leaders are what makes the cult. We've all heard of Jonestown. Well, we know Jim Jones. We've all heard of the Manson family. We know Manson.
Charles Manson. And, to his best friend, he gets called Chuck. And those are the people you do not want to go hang out with. Anyone who refers to Charles Manson as Chuck or Chucky, don't be friends with them.
Oh, yeah. They're still nuts.
Yeah.
But the point being is, like, a lot of the things about the cults, and especially the more recent ones that we've been we want to talk about, we all think about and like to see documentaries on, they typically have this weird appeal because of the leader. I mean, that's why everybody's gathered into it. Like, There's something there to pull you in that makes you give up all these things because you are guaranteed something better. And it's usually by one person or a group of people, but they got something that they're offering that you want.
Yeah, like aliens. And
that kind of brings us... Aliens are over us. Have I ever told you that? Like, I think... they're done bothering with us. Like, they've checked us out for the last, 1,000 years, and we're like, wow, they're dumb.
Well, it's
and
like
they're
the
just
end of the world
done.
skit, where it's like, that meteor's full, well, fuck that. We're at that phase now. And if any of you guys have not seen that, it's because you are children. But
don't talk to us, because we're old crotchety people.
We're old crotchety. Get off my lawn. Go look up End of the World.
End of the world.
Round...
Okay, so it's round.
Okay, so here's the Earth.
All right, so let's just go ahead and get into what we're talking about because you guys have had enough. Thank you for being here. We are going to start talking about Keith Raniere. We're going to talk about his weird-ass behavior. It's so much information, and we're going to talk about the eventual cult that he's been growing under our noses for the last, 20 years or so.
Yeah, 'cause he's super good at everything he does.
But since I'm super neurotic and I can't let go of any fact, let's tell you all about him.
So at one point he was born.
Oh, and at a very young age, I'm sure.
Born a poor black child.
He wasn't, though. Keith is a piece of shit. Look, Keith is born on August 26,
Please
1960.
don't write us fan mail, Keith. We don't want to hear from you.
Please write me fan mail. I mean, we're going to burn it. I just need stuff for my grill to light my charcoal fires.
That's fair, too.
All right. So Keith was born on August 26, 1960 in Brooklyn, New York.
9-9.
No.
Yeah.
And he was an only child. Okay, so of his father and his mother, they didn't have any more kids than this, and they're pretty regular people. His dad is in administration. His mom was a ballroom dance teacher, and that's pretty much it. The thing about Keith is that he's loved, he's spoiled, and from even the very beginning, at least according to him, he has outrageous facts about himself that nobody's going to be able to, like, fact check and be like, oh, yeah, no, you didn't do that.
Well, that's what happens before the internet.
But the craziest thing about Keith and all this is that whenever I do manage to check something that sounds crazy, it turns out to be true.
Oh, that's more terrifying than if it's just a lie.
Yeah, I'd rather some psycho that tells, like, outrageous lies and then I can find out that they're lies.
Yeah.
Like, this makes it much harder for me to figure out Keith. So I hope you guys do a better job than I did. But he says that by the time he's 1 year old, he is speaking in full sentences. By age 2, he says he can read, and he, all over, he's considered an intelligent child, and some would probably call him a prodigy. Most likely his parents.
Yeah, but what we do know is that when Keith was 8 years old, so 1968, his parents divorced. Womp womp.
Okay.
Keith moved to the suburbs of Suffolk, New York, and with his mother, and he attended a private school here for his education, because that's what you do in schools.
No,
Keith,
it's not, but for Keith it is.
Keith it is.
Okay.
And Keith later claimed...
Did you go to private schools?
No, I'm public school born and raised. We have a whole public school in the town.
What color was the barn?
Red. It was called the Little Red Barn Schoolhouse. It was great.
Move on.
And Keith would claim that his mother was an alcoholic.
Yeah, this is Keith's own statement. There's nothing in anything else I've ever seen that proves this. And I don't know why I feel like that has to be said, but I do.
Yeah. And, according to Keith's father, his name's James, not Bond, James. Keith took an intelligence test when he was 7 or 8 years old, and after learning of his intelligence, his personality changed. And a quote from his father, I'm going to paraphrase it because I hate direct quoting. It was almost like a switch went off, and suddenly overnight he turned to, like, Jesus Christ or some shit. And that was his superior and, better than everybody else, like a deity. He's just like, oh, I'm awesome now.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty young kid, but the moment he's told he's a genius, it's something, clicks in him.
Keith likes to say that when he was 12 years old, he taught himself high school math in only 19 hours.
Bullshit.
I can't even fucking learn college math, and I'm a second master's now. At 13, he claims that he learned 3 years of college math in several computer languages, because back then, in 1972...
All 2 of them? Good job.
There's 3 of them, maybe, and one's in Russian.
You didn't have access to that.
The internet didn't even exist back then. I don't know how they did things. I think they, did smoke signals to learn computer languages.
It's just, I know that my grandfather worked for IBM back in the day when computers were the size of a room. And my dad worked for IBM. My uncle worked for IBM. And all of them admit that my grandfather could do coding and that he was a genius. Like, he was really good at figuring this kind of stuff out. And it wasn't for people who were laymen. It was difficult. And I think that's the whole point of Keith is, he likes to say he can do things that, who are you to prove him wrong? Even if you were yeah, prove it. How would
Corey. I'll prove him wrong.
Prove it. You know what I mean? So whatever.
Smack
he
him in
claims
the face.
that he learned this. There's a lot of claims, but there's nothing I can prove or not prove that he did or did not do.
All right. So Keith grows up. He's kind of a short guy. He maxed out about 5'7". He's got long brown hair that he keeps in, whatever kind of fashion it's supposed to be, but he tries to look like Jesus as much as he can.
I mean, in the 80s, it's very,
It's the 80s.
It's a party in the back, but some business in the front.
Yeah,
but he's also letting you know he's down to party. It
Y'all
basically
seen
looks
mullets.
like a shit show.
It's like a Jesus mullet. And so... he's kind of like a wiry kind of guy. He's active and does martial arts, supposedly. But he's also got these small little beady eyes, and he's got these round glasses he has to wear because he can't see for shit.
He has really small eyes and just big, round, John Lennon glasses.
Yeah. And when he's 17, his mother passed away. She'd been sick for about 3 years, so that's not anything easy to go by.
No, I mean, especially it's a single mother. That's a lot of work on anybody.
It's also around Christmas time, so that's always a shitty time to lose anybody. Keith goes on to attend Rensselaer Polytech Institute, and that's in Troy, New York. He graduates in 1982 with a majors in physics, math, biology, minors in psychology and philosophy, so he's another one of those Carl Tanzler types.
I mean, so the thing is like, at least with him, you can prove it. You can look up the records and see that he studied this stuff. A little different from Carl, but it is crazy. Like, he is super smart when it comes to book smarts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, he keeps boasting outside the classroom that he's a genius. He doesn't mind letting others know, you know, that his IQ's really high. And it goes from, like, 178 on some reports to 240 in other reports.
Which is absolutely not true.
You know,
but
he
also doesn't mind letting people know that.
Nah, he likes being the man, the myth, the legend. You know, he also is a judo master by his own accounts. And he can play several instruments all at the same time, probably, because he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, he says he can play several instruments at this point. And then when he graduates from that school in 1982, he ends up getting a job with the State Division of Parole, working on their computer programming and consulting. And, you know, that's no job to snub your nose at. That's
right, not at all.
Pretty high tech for the time. But 2 years later, in 1984, when Keith is 24... he starts a relationship with a underage girl of 15 who we're going to call Gina M. Now, this is going to be a thing of Keith. He likes to do this a lot. He loves him some underage girls.
Yeah, he does. Fucking creeper.
So, Gina was an actress at the RPI Theater Group. It's a community theater, and that just so happens to be the same place that Keith was acting at.
Remember, we're using actress here as very loose. She's a teenager.
Yeah, it's community theater.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, like, that's where a lot of people start, and she's the appropriate age to be starting. He's 24. But he meets her there, and of course, they start hanging out, and, you know, outside of the theater, they start spending time at the local arcade. You know, she's playing Pac-Man. He's playing his favorite game, Vanguard.
You know, it's the 80s, so it's just like Tron.
Gina is incredibly impressed by Keith, because he's sitting there, he's boasting about the fact that he's a judo master, which turns out to be true. He's telling her he's such a genius, and he's so nice, and he cares about her.
And he can juggle while riding a unicycle. It's great.
He literally loves to tell people he can ride a unicycle. Did you know he rides a unicycle?
That's the strangest flex of all time.
She felt really special because he was paying attention to her, and she's 15. She doesn't have a lot to boast about, and he's sitting there telling her, like, I'm a graduate. I can ride a unicycle.
Yeah, because there are two different life phases.
He can play 7 instruments. He can literally be a one-man band down the road if he wanted to be.
Yeah, but...
So, he obviously takes her virginity. I mean, let's not beat around the bush on this one.
Yeah, let's go straight to where it's at.
She weighs about 135 pounds. He starts to pressure her to lose weight because he likes his women to be thin. He also stressed to Gina that they needed to keep this relationship secret.
And when you got that going on, you know there's a problem on one end or another.
Yeah, because he's an asshole, but he's not stupid. The genius thing is true, and he knows what he's doing is wrong, and he wants to keep it a secret, especially since a 15-year-old never keeps anything secret, and she's been introducing him to her friends. So...
that's a bad idea.
You know, she's introducing him to her friends, and the relationship goes on, but eventually 15-year-olds get over shit pretty fast, even a genius who's super interested in them.
Oh, yeah,
so
of course.
She wants to break up, and Keith is super about it. That's fine. In fact, Keith doesn't believe that men are made to be monogamous. They're made to be with lots of women. But he informs her that even if they break up, like, they need to keep having sex.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, why are you going to give up underage? Yeah, fucking creeper.
According to him, it affects him, and there's no reason for them to stop.
That's the same blue balls discussion men have been having since time began. It doesn't actually matter.
Well, Keith, that's his game. That's like, if you're playing poker, like, that's the card on the very end of the deck. Yeah, it's because
he's going against the people that have... they're level 1 at this point. You know, that same year, while Keith is dating Gina M, he meets her friend, Gina H.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is why we're giving last name initials.
We don't typically do that. That's not fair to people to be pointing out who they are and what they've been through. But unfortunately, we did point out some, like, last initials because...
we need to differentiate at this point.
Yeah.
So...
and it's really important to us when they're underage, so typically. But, like, yeah, 2 Ginas, we want to help you out.
Yeah. So Keith and Gina H began dating the Christmas season of 1984. Gina's 16 at the time, and their relationship's kind of found out in the most awkward motherfucking way possible. Keith is sneaking through the window into Gina's room one night because, that's what normal adults do. And his ass is pointing to the door when Gina's sister Heidi walks into the bedroom.
Oh my god.
So literally caught just in the worst possible way. And then Heidi, of course, confronts Keith because, why the fuck are you, adult man, in my little sister's bedroom?
Why are you sneaking ass first into my little sister's bedroom?
Yeah. I mean, who climbs into a window that way anyway?
An ass hat.
He said that, and the way he's defending himself is the most neckbeardy shit in the world. He said that Gina's soul was much older than her biological age, and that she was a Buddhist goddess who was meant to be with him. Fun fact here, Gina is not in fact a Buddhist goddess, but she's a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, she's a Mormon.
Which is probably about as far from Buddhism as you can get, but, I'm not going to go into those two different religions.
But of course, Keith feels that he is destined for greater, better women who must be...
Oh yeah, of course. They have to be goddesses. Reincarnated. When her family was made aware of the relationship, they were put under the impression that Keith was going to marry Gina, and as a result, okay, we're going to let you keep boning our underage daughter.
I mean, I don't know that it was okay keep boning, but it was a relationship that was allowed to proceed because he was going to supposedly do right.
I'm just using my sarcasm because any parents that are allowing that fucking shit shouldn't be having kids.
Okay. But the point is like, yeah, they also fell under his spell and said, oh, you're going to make this right? All right, so you can continue this relationship, and then,
Yeah, and then Keith, using his manly wiles, convinces Gina H to drop out of school so that she could be taught by him.
Because he's a genius.
Yeah, she remained in the relationship with Keith for years, her and many other women, because Keith is a trash human being. And Gina later go on to be a worker for Keith at his future businesses. And she kind of won't really pop back into the story again. But you gotta know that Gina H here has always been in the background for years, dating Keith on and off, working for him. She tried to leave a few times, and he'd always go kind of get her back. And sadly, her story ends in 2002 when she commits suicide at a retreat. So not always happy and shiny here.
No, we wanted to just get her storyline done and out of the way because it's not really fair to keep dragging her in, and it does end. But the fact is like you're gonna see the way that she wanted to leave, you're going to see that pop up a couple of times and how Keith handles that. And, we just wish her and her family the best after this. But turning back to our original timeline where we were leading off. So in 1989, Keith is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for highest IQ. He is qualified for an elite society. It's literally a step above Mensa.
I have no idea what Mensa even is.
Because his IQ is 178.
Oh, yeah, so he's Illuminati. All right.
In 1990, Keith went on to apply his plans to develop a better Amway business. Because he worked for them for a couple of months, and now he thought he knew a better way to go about this.
Oh, yeah, of course he does.
So, using his genius, he went ahead and built himself a company that some of you might be familiar with. And it was called Consumers Byline. It is a multi-level marketing program located out of Albany, New York, which is where Keith likes to hang out at. So this company promised discounts on groceries, home appliances, business discounts, even hotel discounts.
Hot damn.
It's basically a Costco, except there's no Costco.
I knew Costco was a cult.
It is, and I'm a part of it, and I love it. Give me that fucking $5 chicken.
No, Costco is a cult, and it's weird. It's like Trader Joe's or people that shop at Whole Foods.
With good shit. Good shit. You guys are just jealous. Any of those places
are cults of their own.
I don't mind. I'm about it.
I'm going to go to Publix
I'm in the cult
and get my pub sub, and that is no way a cult.
I'm in the cult of Costco.
And Costco's and Whole Foods are all cults. You guys heard it here first.
That's fine. You can't use any of our cheap-ass gas. You can't have a hot dog and a drink for $2.75, and you definitely can't have my $5 roasted chicken.
Good, because that's how you get into sex cults.
And Costco's not about that. Costco's about that good life.
No, Costco's a sex cult.
We're never going to get,
Sponsored by Costco?
Sponsored by Costco, because you're being a complete jerk. I will cut you out of this podcast over Costco. That's how much I love Costco.
Costco's a sex cult.
So good. All right. So yes, he starts a business called Consumers Byline. They're offering all this, except for there's no building to go and buy this stuff. You need to go find those companies that are offering the deals through your business. So another facet of this company, and it's certainly the most important part of Consumers Byline, is that it's very concentrated on gaining membership. members were promised a commission to recruit new members. And so Keith said that, obviously he never promised anyone was going to get rich off this part of the business. And according to Keith, you can expect maybe to make about $1,000 extra a month if you get members to join.
And sell the essential oils.
But the reality of this business was that some people were selling memberships and getting a commission of around $24,000 a month.
Damn.
A month.
That's a lot of money.
In 1990. $24,000 a month in 1990.
You can buy all the trapper keepers you ever want that way.
So eventually Keith would say, quote, "Our basic business is to sell memberships through multi-level or direct sales."
Yep.
Okay, so he will eventually admit we aren't about being a Costco. We're not actually going to provide you anything. We're about membership.
So in 1990, Keith has come to hire a single mother of 2 girls. Not unusual considering that, the company's kind of grown now to 80 to 100 people, so he's not out there specifically targeting employees. He's hiring people he can use at this point. But at this point, too, I need to stop saying at this point, but,
Yep.
Keith takes special interest in not the mother, but in her 2 teenage daughters, because he's a fucking creeper.
Yeah, we've already established that Keith likes them young.
Yep, and, he offers to tutor the girls with his genius, because everyone should learn from Keith.
There's not been a part of this podcast where you were not super dripping with sarcasm.
Such a fucking terrible human being. Now this mother, she jumps at the opportunity. Hot damn, there's a guy who's a genius and everyone's saying it.
Okay, let's not be an ass, though. Let's talk about that. The fact is she's telling people that he's an Einstein because she's learned that he's literally a genius. Everyone's told her so. He seems to act like it. He's very smart. So if your boss, who's being a super nice guy to you, who you know to be a genius, is offering
to tutor, yeah, I guess you're gonna take it.
Yeah. You're gonna take it. I mean, I know that we're looking back in hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But the fact is she thinks she's doing the right thing.
No, I know, and I get that, but I still don't really I don't care for Keith as a human being.
Okay.
So, and she does take him up on it, and, agrees to let Keith tutor her daughters in algebra and Latin. At the same time, though, he's got his new girlfriend, this Pamela Kafritz. And she hires one of the girls, the 12-year-old, to come and walk the couple's dog twice a day.
Yeah,
and this is where shit starts to go off the rails.
A lot of people hire young children, preteens, teens.
Oh, yeah.
Come over, walk my dog. I'm not going to be
lawn.
there.
Yeah, that's what you do.
You're giving life lessons by using, slave labor, and it's great.
Yeah, it's
you're,
perfect. It's a
you're
perfect
tossing
system.
out a few dollars, somebody's learning a lesson.
Here's some money.
Oh, I can't wait to have a house.
Walk my dog. Oh, I'm not letting any children near my house.
Please, use this giant machine to saw grass off my lawn. Hope you don't hurt yourself.
Watch out for your feet. Once the 12-year-old daughter was hired, Pamela encouraged her not to only come by to walk the dog, but to come by and spend time with them. Hang out with Pamela and a bunch of 20-somethings and Keith.
Yeah, that's totally normal.
Yeah, it's completely normal. And then Keith does what he does best, and he showers this girl with attention. He's eager listening to her problems, her dreams, her concerns.
Because the dreams of a 12-year-old are
super exciting.
They're life enchanting.
I want to ride a unicorn through space.
I want to ride a unicorn through space.
That's just what I don't know how
I'm just saying
work.
They don't get better, and so clearly they don't start great.
Yeah. And according to the girl, she later goes on saying that she was perfect picking. She was insecure at the time, and to have someone mature and that was well thought of to be, interested in her is flattering.
I mean, it is. It's hard when you're that age and people aren't paying attention to you.
Yeah.
And then have someone like that pay attention to you.
She's young, inexperienced, overwhelmed, and she gets in really deep over her head real fast. Then during her tutoring sessions, she's supposed to be learning algebra, but, Keith's got other plans. He informs her that she hugs like a child. He was going to teach her how to hug like an adult. Which, if you guys can tell me a more creepy phrase, please send that to our messages.
No, don't. Please don't send that ever.
No, send it and just address it to Shannon.
Oh,
He said that children would hug with their butts sticking out, and adults would hug by having their pelvises touch. Yeah. It goes without saying, but this is snafu. We're going to say it anyway. And this fuck here, Keith, he goes on and takes this 12-year-old's virginity. And the sex, started to become so regular that she'd later admit that she thought this was just what adults did when they hung out. That you'd go to a party with a bunch of adults and then you just start boning each other.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is children get acclimated to things very, very quickly. And if this is the first time you spend a lot of time around adults, because your parents aren't certainly letting you spend time around them and their adult friends doing anything cool or like hang out related, and this is the regular. So there's a bunch of women that she idolizes, and this is what they all do together.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
It's simple. It's exactly what goes on.
Ugh, so this is what they do.
And then, Keith...
There are no innocent parties, like, when the adults come to this.
No,
like, never forget that this has to add up to, like, at least 5 people.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
We know that Keith likes small girls, he likes young girls, but he also enjoys having sex in public places and in random places. So he often had sex, in elevators or at the office with this 12-year-old. Several months into the relationship, and the 12-year-old starts skipping school. She runs away from home because she goes far. She doesn't want Keith to know where she is. Her family lives at their house, and Keith doesn't live too far away. By the time she had tried to end the relationship, she claimed to have had sex with Keith 60 times. She gathered the strength in 1993 to report him to the police. And they told her there wasn't much that they could do. They said that without a rape kit, where was the proof? And she clearly had come to them after the end of the relationship and not directly following any kind of rape situation. So there's no semen to prove that he had done anything.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes a while to get up the strength to be like, I have to go to somebody. They might believe me. Doesn't mean that he just fucked you and you walked out the door and went straight to the cops.
Yeah, and, they want to help. They want to get some proof. But they're trying to make a request for her to wear a hidden wire and go see Keith, but she refused.
That's crazy.
Because everyone around Keith treats him like some sort of fucking god, and the girl is convinced that if, she wore a wire, he's so smart that he'd find it. He'd know it before she even stepped in the door.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a very strange request to make of anybody. Like, that's not something they would ask you today to do.
Yeah.
So this was just unprofessional police who saw an underage girl versus a man who clearly had a lot of money at this point.
Yeah. And eventually the police decided to make a deal where they're going to let this underage girl write a waiver claiming that Keith had had sex with her, but that she was not going to be pursuing charges.
Because, we can't get any proof.
Yeah, and years later, she'd say that, he took my innocence and I can never get that back.
It's very true.
And recently...
he poached her. He was hunting her down and took what he wanted, and she can never go back and get that innocence. And that, had it been her choice, could have been years until she had to be an adult.
Yep. And recently, in 2019 recently... court documents have come out where attorney Richard Donahue told the judge that Keith argued that the age of sexual consent should be lowered. It's 17 in New York. It's already lower than national average.
No, but according to him, it should be like way lower. I don't know, 12.
and on top of this, he also claims that he believes that rape and incest shouldn't be crimes. So he's a real winner all through and through.
Yeah, and these are things we just found. They are in court case, it's in official record. We just aren't going to jump there yet, but these are things that he's arguing against many years later. Right now, nobody's calling him out on this. But that same year, Consumers Byline was beginning to be investigated by authorities in New York and Maine, and had already been sued by Arkansas Attorney General for allegedly using deceptive trade practices.
Hot damn.
Yeah, so that's a mouthful, right? By the end of 1993, Keith claimed that the company sold $1 billion in goods and services and that it employed up to 173 people. And most fantastically of all his claims was that he had 250,000 members paying him $19 a month so they could convince other people to be members.
Oh, that's, not a pyramid scheme.
So that's like a shit ton of money.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is it not? Keith claimed he was worth over $50 million at this point.
That must be nice.
This is 1993. That's 3 years worth $50 million. But as the company grows, his behavior starts to become way more intense, way more crazy, way more erratic. Keith would end up walking into the office at all hours. He would hold weird meetings really late at night, sometimes 1 a.m., and they would be filled with tearful speeches on his philosophy and how he was going to save the world. through Consumers Byline.
Yeah, because any company called Consumers Byline is going to save the fucking planet.
But his erratic behavior starts to make sense considering at this time he has 20 different states that have begun investigations into Consumers Byline. And that very year, the New York Attorney General filed against Keith, alleging that Consumers Byline was just a big old pyramid scheme.
Hot damn.
Hot damn. So, I don't want to tell you guys what they thought. Let's read their words themselves. Oh. So, the Attorney General said, quote, "The emphasis of CBI,
Consumers Byline
Incorporated.
Oh, yeah, Incorporated.
Is clearly not on the sale of product, but on recruiting new organizational rows to boost membership. Indeed, the only product in CBI is the membership. CBI is a classic pyramid scheme." And then according to later Times Union article, Consumers Byline was forced to close after it was placed under 25 separate investigations.
That's like half of 50, guys.
That's a lot. So Keith garnered up legal bills running about $500,000.
But for someone worth $50 million, that ain't nothing.
Right? But then he also settled for $40,000, and of that $40,000, Keith only paid $9,000 because he claimed he was financially unable to pay for the rest. Although at the time, he is literally living off his own savings account. So the guy that was just literally boasting about the fact that he was worth like $50 million fucking dollars now can't pay more than $9,000 for his company.
That must be weird.
Weird that people who say they're billionaires are worth so very, very little, and then when it comes down to actually paying out money, they don't actually have it. I'm just saying, that's weird.
Yeah. You know, and by the following year, 1994, Keith and his then-girlfriend, Tony Natalie, who you don't trust people with two first names, that's just weird, decided to create another multi-level company because he didn't learn from the first one. This one's called National Health Network, and they primarily sold vitamins, and they're based out of Clifton Park, New York. So he doesn't really move far. He makes the same type of company, but now they sell vitamins.
Yeah, vitamins. Everybody wants to be healthy.
Yeah, of course.
He has full, complete knowledge of what vitamins require.
It's like the adult life. You take Flintstones vitamins and hope you don't have to go to the doctor.
I like the purple ones.
You are the only person that does.
Everybody send me your purple Flintstones vitamins.
Yep. She will overdose on vitamins. And Keith first meets Tony Natalie in 1990 when her husband tells her to check out this genius who was talking about his company.
Yeah, he's kind of promoting himself as this world-saving genius who has some company you need to buy into.
Yeah. And, after Tony watches Keith's presentation, she approaches him, and she's asking, God gifted you all this brilliance. Why aren't you out there curing cancer? Why aren't you doing something magnificent and useful with your life?
That's like a literal quote from her, though.
Yeah, probably not the usefulness.
But you can see what he's selling at these little sessions that he's traveling around and talking. Like,
yeah,
the people believe him when he says he's a genius because he's so intelligent and smooth talking and like he knows how to represent himself. And she's literally saying like, why don't you cure cancer?
And Keith responds to her. He's like, oh, I will be. I'm going to change the world. This is my platform. This is where I'm going to begin. Don't you want to come along?
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's just fucking weird.
But she's super attracted to it. I mean, it makes sense. You're like, okay, why don't you do anything crazy and wonderful? And he says, oh, I will. Follow me.
Yeah.
Like Aladdin just put his hand out. Trust me.
I would not get on the fucking carpet, especially not with a new genie.
Excuse me? I see no railings.
Yeah.
Or seatbelt. OSHA needs to be checking this shit out before I step on that.
So, soon after their conversation, Tony takes a private 2.5-hour session with Keith, and after that, she never smoked again.
I mean, that's pretty impressive, though.
As a result, she's following Keith around now.
Oh.
So after Tony leaves her husband, 4 years later, she and Keith start the business of, National Health Network. And Keith, like I said, he didn't change. He's still a pill pusher. He's still just kind of making these weird schemes to try to make some money. But, what's any of this have to do with, this cult that we're getting to? Oh, yeah, we're going to be there soon.
Yeah, I know. Like, I just said that we were going to get really deep into his past, and I feel like we kind of all have a grasp on how Keith is. He likes to talk a lot about himself, but he's believable, and he has a lot of dirty, dirty habits. But the point is by the time we hit 1997, Keith has a very important meeting. And he meets his future business partner, Nancy Salzman. And at this time, Nancy is a nurse and she's a therapist. And she studies hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming.
That sounds weird.
Yeah, it just so happens Keith also studies neuro-linguistic programming, and they're all about talking about this programming. And he has his own theories on it, too. So since that is such a weird statement to make, I will explain what neuro-linguistic programming is.
Please do, because I'm just thinking it's neuros and linguistics and programming.
There you go. You break it down.
Hot damn.
Brain, language, programming. Okay, so this is created by Richard Brandler and John Grinder in 1970s.
Oh, he made that
era.
app, right?
And it's a program where a therapist examines a person's language and speech patterns, and then by learning how they typically talk or how they move or how they say certain words, you manipulate that, and by manipulating that pattern, you can also alter that person's behavior.
Ooh, that's kind of terrifying, to be honest.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but the fact is this has been happening since the 70s, and these guys claim that it allows a person to model the skills of any person that you admire. And by doing so, you can acquire the same exact skills as that person you admire. Do you love Rihanna? Do you want to be as fabulous as her? Well, come take this program and we can manipulate you to be exactly like her. And that's what they're promising. I mean,
Do
it
you
sounds
love Rihanna?
It sounds extensive, but they're saying things like, I'm ignoring you. They're saying things
Really
like
love the lamp.
Like they could really treat major problems like phobias, depression, tic disorders. I mean, they're talking things like Tourette's. They're talking really things that people are taking medicine for and they can't cure. They're saying that's for psychosomatic illnesses. They can cure nearsightedness, allergies, the common cold.
I feel like some of those
learning
are complete
disorders.
bullshit. I mean, I can understand, like, maybe going around the box and maybe trying to help out with a mental illness or something like that, but the cold and nearsightedness, no. It takes
I'm
fucking
sorry,
lasers
this has been
to
around
fix one
since
of
the
those.
70s, and if this cured it, we'd, like, all these things would be in the past. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So the point is this is what people who believe in the theory of neuro-linguistic programming believe in. They think that by manipulating your patterns of speech and your characteristics, you can change yourself into a different person. And this is what Keith and Nancy have studied, and they have their own theories on it. So they have their theory on about how to manipulate that, and it will cause this. So they start to make a really big friendship. So back to Keith. Keith knows this program very well, like we said. And during their budding friendship, Nancy decides not only to offer her therapy to Keith's girlfriend, Tony Natalie, but she also offers $50,000 into their health company.
Hot damn, let's sell some more pills.
Yeah, so she gives them $50,000, but this goes to Tony, which is strange. Why wouldn't she give it to your good buddy, Keith? Well, because Keith doesn't like to put his name into legal shit since consumer byline.
Oh, so he did learn a little bit.
The problem is that their company falls apart. The vitamin company doesn't make it, and eventually Tony Natalie gets thrown into a legal battle that consumes with bankruptcy and everything that has to do with that. But the problem is that Nancy is not having any part of it. Like, she gave you $50,000, Nancy's getting her $50,000 back.
Nancy's doing like a bitch.
So between this battle that Tony is having legally, and then she has it with Nancy on top of that, Keith chooses Nancy's side in the battle.
Because she got the money.
In fact, it was on Keith's urging that they appealed several times against Tony Natalie. Especially since the fact that just a year ago prior, in 1998, Keith and Nancy had incorporated their new joint business called Executive Success Programs, ESP. So
I can read mine.
it happens to be the same company that applied for the patents on Keith's behavior modification technology for the neurolinguistic
Yeah, we're going to use technology
programming.
here use loosely.
So obviously during this time, Tony, Natalie, and Keith have broken up, right? But Keith doesn't handle breakups very well. And since Keith doesn't like to be broken up with, he decides to write her a lot of letters. Because he's very much about having relationships. He believes, again, that women are tied to him, and that any woman who's had a sexual relationship now affects him because they're connected
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You know.
So even when they're apart, her moods and emotions affect him.
No.
Yeah,
they don't.
nope. That's what he says. And so when they're feeling a drain, they were also draining him of his life force. And so when the two broke up, Keith starts to hound her with letters. And these letters begin with, like, they're like love letters, right? Like, oh, I love you so much, and I can't believe you left me. But eventually they would devolve into cryptic threats about jail time.
So let me guess, these things are written kind of just like a ransom note, huh?
Yeah, basically he's threatening her.
And he just cuts the letters out of magazines.
He even sends her a message plotting her lifeline as a warning that she's making a personal mistake and this personal mistake was going to affect her whole life. And he said her lifeline was, quote, careening down a pride barrier to a dream death line.
That just is weird.
That's fucking creepy.
That's not anything I want anyone to ever say to me.
And he even had the police sent to Tony's mother's house. Like, It wasn't just letters. It wasn't just his girlfriend's bugging her. It was literally, like, he sent the police to her house, probably sent them to her mother's house, and he made repeated threats to her and her family. Like, He's not just some, like, loser that lost his girlfriend and, oh, woe is me. Like, he's abusing her.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't like him.
Like we said before, he was pressuring Nancy to continue filing against her on the bankruptcy. So she's like, I got bankrupted. I can't pay you. And then Nancy would just like get told, no, you can't get your money. And they would just pay another lawyer to turn it over and fight her again, which throws you back into a legal battle.
Oh, yeah.
And you're spending all this money. So eventually Nancy she's quoted as saying, you know, she's on the brink of a breakdown. And she says, I can't think. I can't work. I can't pay my bills. Like, this is how much he's harassing her. It got to the point that Tony Natalie told Forbes magazine that she believed Keith had brainwashed her and that he had told her she was put on this earth to carry his baby, the baby who would alter the course of history.
Yeah, that's, you know, something some normal, insane person would ever say.
But now that we say this, of course, Keith says these claims are ridiculous.
That's a lie.
And not rational.
That's just totally something Keith would say.
But do you think this is something Keith would say?
Oh, it's 110% something
I mean, he's already met a Buddhist goddess reborn to be his mate.
Yeah, and a 16-year-old, yeah.
So why would not Miss Tony Natalie be the person to have his baby? I mean, I'm just saying, like, maybe you're just... Don't you believe in fate?
No, I mean...
I'm sorry, I couldn't follow through.
Yeah, no.
Ooh. Anyways, between all this legal battle between Tony Natalie and Keith and Nancy and all this bullshit, in the end, a judge ruled in favor of Tony, and he cited, quote, a jilted fellow's attempt to revenge. This guy must be literally 117.
Yeah. Anyone that says a jilted fellow's attempt at revenge is definitely... probably.
But what he found was that Keith had harassed her, disrupted her business, and had even manipulated her into giving up her 10-year-old son to her husband because not only did he not want her kid around, but he wanted her to carry his godlike child.
Demon spawn.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just saying, like, even the judge finds that she has been manipulated by this man, and after she said no to him, he was 100% into getting revenge. And that's where we're gonna leave it at this. We're gonna hit an hour. Like I said, we're gonna turn this into a multi-part because you don't want to hear us talk for 3 hours straight without us having a break.
Yeah, you want to hear the whole intro again over and over and over again.
Hush, no. But the point being, hush. That is Keith. This is what he's been doing. This has been going on for a long time. He's born in 1960. He started himself Consumer's Byline. He started himself a Vitamin Empire. All those things failed.
I don't think we can call it Empire because it's gone now.
But the point being is Keith has been working in the New York area for a very long time. And when we come back to you later this week, we're going to be talking about his new business venture, NXIVM.
Which you guys may or may not know, but, you know.
But you know. And then also, Keith has this extra special surprise of a sorority that we want to talk about.
Like I told you guys in the beginning.
So, we're going to get back to that. Until then, thank you for sticking with us. I have learned my lesson. Next time I go down a rabbit hole, I have already figured out to make an extra list. So if you guys want to help me, give suggestions about what to do, sometimes certain topics are much easier to research than
They really are.
But I refuse to let you guys not hear everything, and it's pretty freaking good, right? So anyways, give us a email, give us a text, give us a DM. Go into my DMs, y'all.
No one's texting us.
You are. And, well, I don't know. I got some good friends like Kaden. But anyways, send us a message on any of our social media and we will respond to you within time and send us some topics, some themes. Also, we're still doing our stories once a month and we're about to put out our new episode on the 1st. If you want to get your story in on the episode after that, you need to send it in now. And that is just Snafu Stories. What is the craziest thing that has ever happened to you? What's that story you tell at every party? What is the thing that you know we all need to hear?
Yeah. All right, guys. So thanks for coming by, and we'll see you guys in a few days.
Until then, please rate and review us on iTunes and any other place that you listen to us to. And please send us a little hello. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk to you later.
Toodles!